paper that came out in 2006 that was saying that if we don't change the way that we're using the ocean, that by 2048, all of the remaining fisheries, the wild fish stocks, will have collapsed, meaning that they will have gone to a level of 10% or below their original biomass. So obviously that's not sustainable, and we need to change the way we're doing things out there. And so there's a lot of people pointing towards better fisheries management. And there's a lot you can do there, but that generally always boils down to one thing, which is you have to take less fish. You have to leave more fish in the ocean and stop taking as many as we're taking now. At the same time, the medical community is telling us that we need to be eating more seafood. That it's healthy, it's positive for brain and heart and all these things, and at the same time, the world's population is growing and it's becoming more affluent, and the demand for seafood is rising. So there's obviously going to be a bit of a crisis here. We can't squeeze any more fish out of the ocean than we're already taking, and as a matter of fact, we should be taking less. But the demand for seafood and the need for marine protein in the world is rising at an incredible rate. So there's really only one way forward, and that is to figure out how to start growing some of this fish ourselves. It's the same process that happened 10,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent when people stopped chasing buffalo around the hills with sticks and started herding them into corrals instead and breeding them, turning them into domesticated animals. So that's purposefully infect this population of fish with a parasite to test different methods of treatment for it. So that's what, these guys aren't infected right now, they're just being held in case we want to do something like that. The harvest is about a pretty quick turnover, and that's why this fish is another reason this fish is great to work with. After they get up to about a year old, past that point, the feed conversion ratio really starts to become sufficient. They're actually pan-tropical. They've found this fish everywhere from all the way across the Indo-Pacific to as far north as the English Channel. They're everywhere.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, the only place that they're not reported from is the Red Sea, oddly enough, and I think that's just because people haven't been looking hard enough. Introduced back in the 50s by the state government in an attempt to increase the local food fishery population, just to give people something else to fish for. It was a little bit of a mistake, I think. This fish is really prone to carrying something called sigmatoxin. It's a food-borne toxin, dinoflagellate in the reef, and basically it bioaccumulates. So little grazing reef fish come along and eat the dinoflagellate, and that toxin will accumulate in them over their life cycle, and basically they'll accumulate more. Some fish here that are extremely imperiled in the wild, and what we have in these tanks is giant Pacific grouper Nephelus altrifus, and they are very susceptible to spearfishing because they're not afraid of anything. And also they fetch a very high price in the market, so there's a lot of get them to come up for you. Yeah, so the largest one in here right now, we call her Bertha. She's about 200 pounds. 200. The other ones are anywhere between 125 and 200. These are our parent generation. These are our brood stocks. We brought these in from the hatchery, and then ever since we've been working towards getting them spawning. And we did have a couple of successful spawns with them. We actually just got our first successful one in 3 years from them this summer, so we're excited that moving them into this new tank, this bigger tank, is really zone water. Reduce the stress level.
What are you feeding them?
These are just whole pilchards, basically
Monsters, eh?
a soft diet, and especially a raw fish diet is spawning behavior. They will eat compounded commercial diet, but it's bad for their reproductive fat content.
This was what they call the Jewfish?
No, that jewfish is actually a snapper.
Okay.
It's a big gray snapper. This
Okay.
is in Hawaii they call this hapu'upu'u. It's just a giant grouper to everybody else, basically. These guys look big, but in the wild they actually get up to 10 feet long and weigh up to 1,400 pounds. So these guys are not done growing by any means. And we don't really know how old they get. Like I said, these guys are hitting close to 200 after 8 years, so they probably live a long time.
200. Don't put your hand in there.
The reason I'm throwing the fish instead of holding them in my teeth like it's SeaWorld.
Do you think
I don't trust them.
Do you think the size has been somewhat limited by their the pond they were in?
The size has probably been more limited by the diet that they were fed for a long time. They did a lot of work when they first had them when they were growing up with feed trials, trying to feed them different things. And we found that their growth rates are actually pretty good if you're feeding them trash fish. Obviously that's not the most sustainable thing to do for mass culture, but if you're just maintaining a small broodstock population, it's doable, especially if you're just trying to produce eggs. And we'll actually, you guys want to walk over there, what those guys are looking at. Oh, those are one of our techs. You can just leave them there. He'll come back looking for them at some point.
The Roy, when you said the oxen, if you wanted
Probably they're just trying to avoid responding to me or fishing me. Yeah, it's probably. And it's a new type of cage that they attempted to use here on the offshore farm site and found that the currents at this particular site are too strong for it. But this sort of material and what you're looking at here really is sort of the next generation for open ocean farming. It's basically a float ring. These two top rings will connect together in one big circle, and a sinker ring which separate underwater to create a cylinder. Then you have net stretched between them. But this is high density polyethylene. It's extremely durable, extremely tough, and extremely flexible. It can take a real beating and still continue functioning and keep your fish safe and contained. And that sort of new materials science is very interesting as far as being able to expand the production out there and keep the costs lower. We called this the Pokey pen, which is sort of a mashup of Polar Circle, which is the company who makes this pen type, and then Net. We'll walk around the Puna Girl here and we'll show you the net.
I know. I thought that was Why? Question.
Oh yeah, you've got questions?
Salt water? This is from the sea?
That's right, that's salt water.
Okay, okay.